Hello, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Swallow me whole, daddy.
Wait.
All of you!
Daddy, chill.
What the hell is even that?
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to episode 33 of the Split Screen Media Podcast. We are a podcast that talks about movies, TV shows, music, video games, and we get into our personal lives a little bit as well. With me, as always, is my lovely co-host, Chris Blankenship. Say hi to the people.
Hi to the people.
And with us again, as always, pretty much as always, is Mr. Joey Baden. Thank you for being on the show.
Thanks for having me back.
All right. And today we're going to continue, I guess, our discussion from last week. We had mentioned that our Suicide Squad review was going to be done this week. And here it is. We're going to talk about it today. Joey, just to fill you in, last week we were discussing, we were talking about like the Suicide Squad box office and why it failed and maybe some of the reasons as to why it failed. We mentioned, Chris brought up something very important, which that the marketing for this movie was pretty terrible. We had also talked about COVID and we talked about the HBO Max side of things.
Okay.
But this week I really just want to get everybody's general thoughts and then we're going to get into some more specifics. But what did you guys think of this movie overall?
I thought it was really good. I really liked it. I give it like 8 or 9 out of 10. When you said last week, like go into it watching it or felt like you were watching like a comic book movie, that's kind of like the headspace that the movie put me in, and for good reason. And that way it could be a little outrageous and like still make you feel like everything's kind of believable. The humor was pretty good. The character development was pretty good, even if they died in 5 minutes. It made me care about each character, but they were also expendable. It was kind of weird. So I think that was done well. And then there was one part that I'll get to a little later that I didn't like, but I think that has to be reserved.
Let's keep our general thoughts spoiler free. The first part of this spoiler free, and then we'll let everybody know. We'll put something up on screen when we get into spoiler talk. So yeah, this will just be our general thoughts. But Joey, what did you think of the movie?
Yeah, I agree with Chris. I really liked it. Again, probably solid 8 or 9 out of 10. It kind of gave me the old. It reminded me of kind of the more old comic book movies, not necessarily like pre MCU, pre DCU. Kind of gave me like some. I kind of felt almost like the old like Daredevil, the old Punisher, even the old Spider-Man movie, something like that. It kind of felt like I was somehow coming back to that in a way that I really enjoyed. I know a lot of times you kind of get sucked up into the whole extended universe thing, and this one, while it did have some references to the larger universe, was also a pretty self-contained story, which was really good too.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. It's interesting you say that. It definitely has the camp of like an early 2000s superhero movie, like that same level of cheesiness and it didn't
insanity. Have the edgy music at least, but
no, it didn't have the edgy
music. Nickelback originals.
Which is it's a huge shame.
Bumps it up to it, whatever, one more up. If it was an 8, it's a 9. If it was a 9, it's now a 10.
Easily. This might be a first on Split Screen Media, because usually I'm the pessimist, the cynical douchebag, as it were. But I think I actually would give this a higher score than both of you guys. I loved this movie. I think it was my favorite. I think I said this last week, but it was my favorite comic book movie in at least like 3 years, 2 or 3 years. I think every aspect about this film really just spoke to me, which I know there's a lot of things we're going to get into later. I actually have a whole list right here. I'll show the camera. I don't think you'll be able to see it. It says reasons why the Suicide Squad bangs. I think it was backwards too, but yeah, everything from the visuals to like the overall style, the writing, the choice of the soundtrack, the character development, like everything in this movie, I think works super well. I'd probably give this like a 9 or a 9.5, somewhere in that area. Absolutely love this film. But I guess going into specifics, we'll still say we're going to stay spoiler free for a little bit here. First thing I have is the camera work in general. I thought was really unique in this film. I mentioned it last week. It feels very Tarantino with the hard pans and like the weird focus on certain things moving throughout the scene.
Thankfully,
But
not on feet.
no, actually, there is one pretty gratuitous foot shot in this movie.
Oh yeah, that's true. With yeah, I won't say with who or what, but you're not wrong. Okay, all right, they Tarantino.
But this is actually something I mentioned last week too. I told you that it felt like a Tarantino superhero movie, and it turns out the guy who did Once Upon a Time in Hollywood edited this movie too, which is why they feel so similar to each other. But compared to the normal type of directing we get in these superhero movies, especially in the MCU, this was like such a breath of fresh air. I felt like
For sure.
It didn't feel like those other action movies in a way. Like it's an action movie, but it didn't have that feel. And I think like going through, can we do spoilers?
Let's just do spoilers. Yeah, that's fine. So spoilers here on out if you haven't seen it, which you probably haven't because no one has. But
how can we talk about the camera work and then not talk about specific examples?
Yeah.
When they're going through the camp, like the Freedom Fighters camp, and like Peacemaker and Bloodsport are like having that little competition, and the camera's like following them like at a distance sometimes, and then I think that's like a really good like use of the camera in that scene.
Yeah, it's cool. Follow them, then we kind of go to POV, and then we'd follow them behind. We go back to POV. Yeah, I agree.
Even simple stuff, like there's a scene at the end where Bloodsport is like assembling his weapon, and it's like panning all around, and it does like this crazy hard stop on it where it like it sort of materializes as this weapon. He puts something on top and it spins around. Like it's just really fun. Is the best way I can describe this movie.
And it's not too over the top, like dizzying. I think it might have felt that way like once or twice, but like it generally speaking, it wasn't that bad.
It rides the line really well, I think.
Yeah. And then what you typically get with these action movies or Marvel or something is like jump cut every like not even 2 seconds, like half a second, and then it's like slinging all around, and it just makes like combat feel like you're on a roller coaster.
Yeah, and then they did a really good job of like the extended Harley fight, where it was like almost like a John Wick fight, where it was kind of following her throughout it, where she was doing the cool shooting. They had the really cool visuals to go along with that played into her character, and was a polite reference to her in the animated series, with the birds and the flowers and stuff popping up everywhere. But speaking more specifically on the camera work there, it was really cool how it followed her through that, and it felt like I was watching like a female-led John Wick movie, which John Wick is a pretty good compliment.
The editing with the editing with the flowers and stuff in that scene is like kind of really crazy. It's like cool.
Yeah,
really enjoyed that.
Yeah, again, very stylized. That one scene I think was better than all of Birds of Prey. Like it was what that movie was trying to do, but this one just knocked it out of the park. I actually have that on my list pretty far down, but we can skip to it. I wrote Harley Quinn is actually good now, because not that Margot Robbie was ever bad as this character. I think she really acted the hell out of this role the entire 3 times she's played Harley Quinn. But this is the first time I think the writing matched her level of acting, and her character gelled with me a lot in this film. Like this is the first time I was like, yes, I see you as Harley Quinn now.
I haven't seen Birds of Prey, so I don't know, like, I guess the bad part of it, or I don't know. I don't remember her in any other role. I did like her though, and I thought the humor, like when they're scaling the building and she's like, "Oh, hey, what are you guys doing?" And they're like, "We're here to save you." And she's like, "Well, I can go back inside." Like that was really funny to me.
There are a lot of the jokes that really stuck, which is good too.
Even if it was like a little childish or whatever, but I still thought it was really funny.
Yeah, no, I would say a good amount of the jokes in this movie land, which I wasn't really expecting. There's one kind of through line for maybe the last, like there's a portion of this that happens in the last act of the movie, but you see this guy who basically just helped them out in the second act, and he's sort of following them around, and you don't really know why. In the back of your head, you're like, why is this guy still here? And then at one point at the end of the movie, he gets shot and he dies. And then one of the characters goes, "Oh my God, Milton's dead." And then the other characters are like, "Milton was here? He was with us?" And they sort of address like your own thoughts of what he was doing throughout the entire movie. And I thought that was a really fun callback.
I love too. And then during the last scene as well, or one of the last scenes where Harley thought that Bloodsport was Milton, she still didn't like. She did not recognize the dead guy on the floor was Milton, not the person that was right beside her.
I was just gonna say that was a joke that definitely did land, because it made sense. Like when she looked out into when they were in that like office cubicle thing, she saw both Milton dead and Bloodsport when she looked out, so it makes sense. And she genuinely looked frustrated that she still didn't know who Milton was. She's like, "We just had this conversation."
She had a hell of a day. I mean, she just finished like stabbing the starfish and stuff, so
Yeah, and I mean,
she's a crazy day.
She is crazy, so that was totally fine. Like she wouldn't know who's who, really.
Right.
That was another great bit. Speaking of not knowing who's who, the whole polka dot man mom thing.
Oh yeah,
was really funny.
I loved that. That was so funny because it gets it's another twist like on the character that we don't see externally until it shifts to his point of view, and then it's just his hilarious mom. Like especially when there's like several of them, like just like
when they're
like
all dressed in all the different bad guys' outfits or whatever.
Yeah.
That's cool.
It does a great job of escalating that joke too, because at first he's like, "I see everybody as my mom," because for the backstory, his mom tortured him and forced him to become a superhero. Like she gave him superpowers, so he sees everybody as his mother, and you see that at first, and then the next time it happens, he's in the club and he's like grinding on someone, and it's all his mom. and then the next time he like turns the giant bad guy at the end into his mom. So it was a really good escalation of comedy, I thought.
For sure.
Let's see what else I have on here. Yeah, I think we kind of talked about this already, but the visuals of this movie were absolutely incredible. The special effects in particular, I thought were really well done.
Yeah, so it was so practical. Like most of them are practical effects, which was fantastic, which made it look a lot better than just CGI garbage like it is most of the days.
Yeah, for sure. And that's when CGI is at its best, is when you film most things practically and then you just add a layer of CGI on top. And that's what it's really supposed to be for. That's what it's always been for, except now, with the Marvel movies, they don't have time to build all these sets. Like they have the money for it. It's just, a lack of time with everything else coming out. So it's nice to see them put that level of effort into a movie again.
For sure.
See, we have I said great pacing, fun for the entire movie. We talked about that already.
It didn't feel like a 2-hour movie.
Yeah.
No, it blew by on my first watch through. I was like, I can't believe this is over already.
Yeah, like sometimes those, like, because it's 2 hours, sometimes those movies feel like a drag. But I really enjoyed it, and it really felt good, and it felt like you said, the pacing of it felt consistent throughout the whole movie. Like the story was going at a good pace. It didn't feel like there was lulls or parts where it was like going too fast, or there wasn't like a lot of exposition-y shit. It's just like told a nice, even, well-paced, consistent story.
Yeah, I think I'd mentioned this before, but I really liked that when they did any sort of exposition or backstory for the characters, it made sense. Like they wait until the bus scene to kind of start talking about why the hell are you with rats? Why are you a rat catcher too? Why are you afraid of rats? Like they waited until it made sense for the characters to talk to each other about that. It wasn't, I will always bring up Suicide Squad, the original one, where he gets in the plane, he yells, "This is Katana! They're still getting killed by her sword," or whatever.
Yeah.
And this one didn't really do that at all. They were like, it was more so, these are your friends until they die, or until the mission's over. Until they die, you die, or the mission's over. And then that's all you get at the beginning until a later point when they have a lull and they can talk to each other.
Here
As
comes
a
Slipknot.
real human would,
Here comes Slipknot, the man who can climb anything.
Yeah.
Oh man, yeah, night and day between the first one and this one. Like
Well, let's just
truly,
hope this one can win an Oscar too.
the Oscar-winning Suicide Squad, ladies and gentlemen. Oh yeah, no, I think that's also an important thing to bring up too, like how little exposition there is at the beginning with characters, because usually it'd be like, oh, here's why this person has their powers, here's how they got to this spot, but it's literally like this man shoots polka dots and this is the giant shark. We're moving on. Like it doesn't
Yeah.
matter. Um,
But like
and-
the TDK, they even make a joke out of like not explaining it. With the Nathan Fillion's character, because they don't like he's asking about it on the thing, and where you would expect them to explain what it stands for, or explain his powers, he's like, "It's my name." They're like, "I know. What do the letters stand for?" It's like, "They're my name."
yeah,
Like letters can't be a name. It's like all names are letters. It was a really good joke, and it skipped the pointless exposition over this character that it didn't matter in the grand scheme of things.
It doesn't matter because everybody's backstory is you
They're a
were
criminal.
a criminal who's now in a mission and you're on the Suicide Squad.
Right.
So
which actually leads to my next thing perfectly, Chris. But I put excellent use of expectation subversion in this movie. I mean, the whole first 15 minutes of this are introducing you to all these characters that immediately die in the first mission, which I thought was so much fun.
I love that so much. It sets the stage for any one of these, because there's some characters in Team One that you probably are like, that guy's gonna die, right? Like I guess like Javelin, he's not making it anywhere. But there are also some characters that you think that might go a while. Like I thought Pete Davidson's character was gonna get more screen time than he did. And so when they all died, like I was like, well, I guess we can't get too attached to these characters. But the film, like once we hit Team Two, it does make us care a little bit. But still in the back of our mind, they have already planted the seed, like, hey, they could die at any minute.
I think the big moment was Captain Boomerang dying in the beginning. I think that was what truly set the stage for the entire rest of the film. That it's like anybody can die. I like the whole point of this thing is that you're going on a suicide mission and people will die. I mean, he was even joking up with I think it was with Harley or Rick, of which ones he thought was going to survive, which one he thought was going to die while they were on the helicopter. And then he died along with everyone else except for Harley and Rick Flag. So it was definitely like a nice wake up call moment. It kind of left you on the edge of your seat for like the whole movie. Like, I know that we're like following the main squad now, but when's the main squad going to have this moment? And they have their own moments too.
It felt believable. Like
Yeah.
sometimes when we're watching all these comic book movies, it's like the good guy always wins, the bad guy always loses. Like, there's an Iron Man 3 coming out, so Iron Man's not going to die in Iron Man 2. So it's just,
Right.
but this one felt like we don't know these characters. They're not setting up, hopefully they're not setting up sequels. We can talk about that in a little bit. But like, they're really like, again, there's like no attachment. Like they can die and it's totally like the story moves on. The mission keeps going on. And I like the movie did that.
For sure.
They do a good job at like setting them up as characters, but the movie never pretends that like their powers are anything but the most ridiculous and stupid thing you can imagine. Like one of my favorite scenes, or one of the scenes at least I was laughing the most at in this movie, is when TDK finally shows his powers and he detaches his arms and they just kind of like float across the battlefield. But because like you don't have any actual like body kinetic energy to move them, all he can do with his arms is like noodle slap the enemies.
I like when his arms are getting shot, but he still feels that pain. So he's like writhing around on the ground.
No, I was dying. Like, it's the same thing as like Javelin's powers that he throws a javelin. Like these guys suck.
Yeah.
but the movie never pretends that they don't. Like they don't make them like, oh, look how amazing these guys are. They're like, no, these guys are awful. Like they're not even
list villains,
Yeah.
It also treats them as all equals, which is really nice. Like it doesn't like have like one, like sure, Bloodsport is like the leader of Team 2, but it like they all equally get to do something silly or dumb, and it's kind of cool that they're treated all equally. And Yeah, I don't know. I don't know where I was going with that.
No, but
But
I
it just like one character doesn't stand out, you know.
yeah, for sure. And they did a good job. Just speaking of Bloodsport, I think because originally they hired Idris Elba to take over the role of Will Smith's Deadshot, because he decided not to come back. I think he said he was filming a movie, but I think in reality he was like, I'm not doing one of these fucking movies again. But it was interesting because his backstory, at least in the trailers, looks so similar to Deadshot. Like, oh, he had a daughter, he's trying to protect her, blah blah blah. Like, I was like, oh, it's gonna be the same exact story. But they do a really good job of differentiating him from Deadshot, because the first conversation he has with his daughter, he's just like, fuck you. He's
Yeah,
like
they're screaming at each other.
Yeah. And I was like, oh, this is a very different character. Okay.
Yeah, I agree with all that. That was really good to see, leading more into your like good subversion of expectations, where it didn't ever do it in a poor way.
Yeah, I mean, another perfect example, Joey, I know you and I talked about this, but one of my favorite subversions in this movie is, they're taking out all the guys in that camp, and the trope would be, oh, they're like seeing who can do it better, like who can get the best kill, and you're like, oh, okay, that's funny, but whatever. But then at the end, when they open the tent, they realize they just killed all the good guys.
Right.
Like, I really enjoyed that sort of extra twist, and that happens a couple times in the movie. King Shark's quote unquote death
Yeah,
is sort of that,
like
like, you
three of
think
them.
you think he dies like 3 times.
Yeah.
But that, yeah, I think that movie, like you said, Joey, when we were talking off camera, Last Jedi does it horribly, and this movie does it so well.
For sure. I really hope that with how much love King Shark got, he makes like a cameo or something in Aquaman 2. I don't know if he will, but it'd be really fun to see King Shark come back there.
Absolutely.
I felt so bad for him throughout the whole movie.
Yeah.
He just needed a hug.
Like they're all the strip club, and he's just like, I'll just stay in here. His little mustache.
Oh man, they treat him like garbage. I actually thought that when the little octopus things attached to, I thought he was dead when he fell out of the building. I really thought they had killed him. I was like, oh my god.
Yeah.
I did too, and I was like,
It's such an
he gets no love.
Yeah. The whole thing is about him wanting friends. He finally gets friends, and they murder him. It was almost poetic if he did die there.
Yeah, no, it really would have been, but thankfully they brought it, because I love his character.
So he's been a pretty fan favorite character via most of the reviews and people I've talked to. Everyone's like, King Shark was hilarious, and was just he had really cool like scenes too.
Speaking of the characters, on this sheet I have, one of the things I put was that the characters, you actually care about these characters. This movie has great emotional moments, including Starro, which I guess we can get into that a little bit. But yeah, the emotional beats in this movie, that was the last thing I was expecting to hit. Like, I was like, they're not going to be able to pull that off. Like, this movie's too ridiculous, it's too over the top, which is fine, but usually you can't get that emotion from that, and I was totally wrong. There's some very heartfelt moments in this movie, particularly with the Ratcatcher and Bloodsport, their whole dynamic, and then ultimately the death of Rick Flag.
Yeah, and Polka Dot Man too. Like,
and Polka Dot Man.
I felt genuinely like I genuinely like it felt like I got like stabbed in the heart when he died. I was like, because he was so happy he's finally going to have his hero moment. He had finally lived up to his mom's expectations. It was like this huge revelation, and then he immediately dies.
What an amazing backstory for that character too, that nobody cares about.
Yeah. Like, if you told me that Polka Dot Man was gonna be like a main character and someone who I was gonna be genuinely sad that when he dies, I was like, I would have laughed at your face, you know. Same with Ratcatcher too. Who would have thought that they would have had like one of the best like backstories and like the pulling the heartstrings with Ratcatcher 1 and the cute Taiki Waititi cameo.
Yeah.
I will say, when Peacemaker was about to like kill Ratcatcher 2, like that really tugged at my heartstrings, because I was like, I thought they were all going to be like on this mission, and then there was like the clear divide where Peacemaker's trying to destroy the records.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, like that sucks. Why Peacemaker, you bitch?
Yeah.
John Cena's turn as Peacemaker in this movie is awesome, because John Cena is not a good actor, but in this movie, I actually really enjoyed his performance because he starts out the movie like clearly, like he says in one of the interviews, he's like, I'm douchey Captain America. That's the character I play. And you see that he's like, I want peace. I don't care how many men, women, and children I have to kill to get it.
Right.
Like it's so you know his character right off the bat. He's very goofy. There's a scene where he's running around in his underwear, like it's ridiculous. But then at that moment, Chris, we were talking about where he's not gonna let Bloodsport reveal that, or I'm sorry, Rick Flag revealed that the US government was involved in Project Starfish. He has this great turn where he really becomes the true villain of the movie, and I loved it. Like that fight scene with him and Rick Flag is so good. Like with the helmet, all you can see is the reflection.
Oh yeah, that was
in the
such a
helmet.
cool camera shot. Oh my god.
One of the funniest moments in this film, I think, was when they were doing the Harley Quinn like rescue mission, and Harley Quinn had killed like everybody in that building. But then Peacemaker's like, I've got my eyes on like the only person in the building, and it was like a secretary. And it's like there's no reason for him to ever have to kill that secretary, but he's like, I'm locked in if you need me to.
I'll take her out.
Yeah.
Yeah, so his development was great. And then just a quick note to any screenwriter out there, this to me is how you do villain depth with just one line. Joey, I know you and I talked about this, but one of my favorite moments in this movie is you see, obviously they're attacked. By the way, the main villain in this is a giant starfish. I should probably just throw that out there. But the giant starfish named Starro is attacking everything, and they're about to kill him. And Harley Quinn uses the javelin from Javelin and stabs him in the cornea, and she's like swimming in eye fluid while rats devour the inside out. Like it's hilarious. And you're laughing as the star is like, his eye is filling with blood and he's falling around. But then through one of the people that he has in like his hive mind, he goes, I was just happy like looking up at the stars like before you took me away. And then it cuts back to him dying, and you feel awful. Like
Yeah.
it's this great turn of like the movie makes you feel sorry for this starfish. And like that's another emotional beat I just wasn't expecting. I'm like, how the fuck did they do that? This is so good.
You
Yeah.
just cared about a starfish.
Because
You
the
cared about a
real
mind controlling starfish.
it's like the real villain was the American government the whole time, you know.
Uh-oh. Too real, too real.
They weren't trying to say anything.
Well, with current events, maybe we shouldn't get into that.
Yeah, that's true. But yeah, it really caught me off guard to have this very humanizing moment for this giant alien starfish creature.
Yeah.
By the way, all the body horror stuff in this movie was great. Like when Polka Dot
In
Man
Pinterest
has
lab,
to,
you mean?
well, the lab, I was gonna say the lab with all the crazy starfishes stuck onto people.
Like the guy's like cut in half, but he's still alive with the Starro thing.
Mhm. Yeah, because they're like underneath it's all corpse, but like the star is feeding off whatever energy is left. And then the Polka Dot Man thing where like he has to expel all of the dots, but like when he wakes up and his face is all fucked because the polka dots are basically filling him up.
Yeah.
Like all of that stuff was fantastic.
Starro's armpit is definitely a vagina, right?
It looks like it.
You want to talk about body horror? That's one thing that was a little suspicious.
Well, they did say the Thinker had sex with him.
Yeah.
He was like, he kept me here and he tortured me and he had sex with me, and the Thinker goes, oh.
Capaldi was great as that, as
He was
the horny maybe Nazi scientist.
No, I love how they did Thinker in this, because usually he's like the big bad and he's like, oh, I know every move you're gonna make before you make it because I'm so smart. And here was just like, he was kind of smart and he attached a bunch of shit to his head to make him a little smarter. Like he was still pretty useless, which I thought was great.
Right.
I like that. Because I didn't know anything about him before this. And I was like, he's so easily captured for somebody who's like supposed to be 7 steps ahead of you, you know?
Yeah.
Like when they take him out the club, he just kind of goes willingly. And it's like,
Yeah.
you don't have a plan for this?
You didn't see them coming? Like, no, he was so useless. And then his death was one of my favorites too, where they rip him in half and throw him against the side of the thing.
Right.
We should probably mention that too. This movie is crazy violent, like
Absolutely.
over the top in the best way. Super, super violent, but it really needed to be, I think, to fit the tone of this movie.
For sure. Definitely, and like I said, following that Tarantino guideline. And one thing I want to bring up as well that I really liked was Amanda Waller and her goons. I really like again, those are just like, I think I've never seen the movie, but Connor, you had mentioned it's a lot like Cabin in the Woods, where they're just kind of like middle management type people just plucking away doing these awful jobs, basically, that are controlling people's lives. But I really like that they had a little bit of character defining moments where like they'll see him, or like they'll see her trying to kill that, or say, hey, I'm gonna put your daughter in jail if you don't do this job, and they're like, can you do that? Like, are we like, they had that moment of that meme, like, are we the baddies?
Yeah.
They kind of had that moment, and that was really good. And God, Waller does, or Viola Davis does amazing as Waller every time. She is. I feel bad for whoever ends up playing Waller next, because they're gonna have some pretty big shoes to fill.
Yeah, I think she did a great job. But that, going back to your point, I think that was a much needed change for this one, because the first movie was like some government organization started task force. Like, you didn't really know who was in charge of task force X,
Yeah, it's supposed to be
besides.
Bell Rev, and they made very clear that that's who this was.
Yeah, but this one was like, you saw the working, like the internal workings of that organization. You see like the flaws within it, and all these people who are betting at the beginning, like who's gonna die.
Yeah, I
Like,
love the Deadpool at the beginning.
yeah, no, it felt very much like an office job, exactly like how Cabin in the Woods is supposed to be. And yeah, I loved that change too. It was subtle, but like it was definitely needed.
Mm.
I can't sing this movie's praises enough. Like, if anyone out there hasn't seen it, I think that's probably safe to say that we would all recommend you go out and see this, or at least watch it on HBO Max if you have that.
Absolutely. Definitely, I think theater would be better because be good to give them money, and hopefully give them the thumbs up to make more money, more movies like this. But also probably seeing it on the big screen would be a little better than watching on your rinky-dink TV at home.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, whatever way you can, yeah, just because that's the only way you can vote nowadays is with your wallet. So if you want more movies like this to get made, you got to go see it. Which is a shame, because I don't think this movie's going to make its money back. Again, we don't have the HBO figures. I'm sure that represents a large chunk of the people who saw it. So, box office numbers really don't mean anything anymore in this current age. But it's still a bummer to see that people wouldn't go out and support this, even if I kind of understand why.
The first one left a really bad taste in a lot of people's mouths, so I think that's hurting a lot for sure. But
I think we talked about that last episode, how just having like the same, like that association probably didn't do any favors.
No, absolutely not. And it also kind of proved the point. I think I mentioned this too, but it proved the point of the WB executives, because they're going to go, see, we told you, if you put Joker in it and you put the promotional material with Joker and Harley Quinn, people are going to go see it, which sucks that they're proven right with this, because this movie is so much better than that one. Like, they're not even in the same category.
right. One of them is like actual Oscar worthy, and one of them should be in the Razzies,
Yeah, exactly.
It's a shame, because like this movie, it's just like a one-off movie that like I don't have to care about a whole franchise. It's not setting anything up, and I just enjoyed it to watch for 2 hours, and after that, like I don't like, there's nothing else like to care about. I'm not analyzing every character and what, oh well, they said this, so that's going to set up this in the next movie or TV show or whatever the fuck they want to make. It's just, it was just nice to like just care about them and the element of that movie, and only that movie.
It was
I will say, unfortunately, you're probably gonna have to ruin your hopes and dreams with that, because there's a Peacemaker TV show that's coming out.
So that's the one thing I don't like about it, is the after credit scene setting that up. But
was that was your one thing? That's
my one thing. Like, if I just didn't see that after credit scene, I would have loved the movie, probably 10 out of 10. The fact that they brought him back to life or whatever, and I was like, well, they're setting something up with him. I didn't know it was a TV show,
Yeah.
but I mean,
It's like a limited series, like 6 episodes or something like that. But
that's not too bad. But I mean, it's still like,
I think it's just a prequel. I don't think it like has any larger thing. I just think that
Okay.
John Cena really enjoyed being Peacemaker, and they're like, yeah, fuck it, we could probably make some more money.
I
And
know,
TV
but that's the
shows are a
thing
lot
is like,
cheaper.
I just wanted it to be this movie. I don't want a spin-off TV show or this or that, but you know, it's how movies and TV shows are made and how studios make money nowadays, or make the most money.
I'm with Chris on this 100%. I think the DCEU is at its best when it doesn't try to do this like greater universe type thing. I mean, some of the recent DCEU movies that I absolutely adore are like this, Aquaman, and Shazam, which have nothing to do with the overall story of like being interconnected to whatever. Like they're just films. And I
Right.
kind of, you know, as great as the MCU can be with its, you know, these stories that have gone on for a decade, which is really cool and unique. I miss films. And
Yeah.
this felt like a singular movie front to back that I could just watch and enjoy.
For sure. And like I guess the thing is like for those it seems like it's more like for those who want more, they'll be able to get a little get that little bit of extra. But I don't think Peacekeeper is going to matter in the grand scheme of things. He's a C-lister villain. I don't think that it'll matter. So like I'll probably watch it because I thought he did a really good job, and I think it'll be pretty cool to see. But you guys not watching it, I don't think will affect anything at all. Whereas if you
Yeah.
miss Loki, you're gonna be really confused for the rest of the MCU until you watch Loki.
And that's I think is like the problem with this is like, I'm so like just tired of having to watch so much shit to understand a new movie. You know, like if I miss 2 movies or something, I'm just so lost, you know.
That's where Casey, my fiance, is right now, or she's behind on one of the shows and 2 of the movies now. So she's gonna do a lot of catching up before she can be ready for like Spider-Man and Doctor Strange, which are the ones she's actually excited for. But she still
And
has
that's
to
the
watch
thing.
Loki. She still has to watch Far From Home.
You can't watch the new movies until you see those because you're not going to understand anything.
Mm.
Yeah, there's definitely some things you can skip here or there, but I mean, you know, like you said, Joey, like stuff like Loki is going to be very important
Yeah.
going forward.
It sets up everything moving forward. So like it's like that's the thing to watch, you know.
But with Marvel, I think they have it to where they expect you're going to do that. They're like, if you've been with us for this long, you're going to watch the rest of our shit. Like we're not going to baby you anymore. Which to an extent, I kind of like that because it means we don't have to do all this hand-holdy crap that Phase 1 did of like, here's the origin story of this person. They could just be like, hey, here's a new fucking character, deal with it.
Yeah.
I think this movie did that pretty well without having to set up a whole franchise, though. But I mean, I guess if you're going to do like such a big extended universe thing like Marvel or whatever, where it's like tons of movies and TV shows and stuff, fans are going to want that level of detail if they're investing that much time. So
yeah, that's true. I would also argue though that, you know, as bad as the first Suicide Squad is, it does set up a lot of elements for this movie that they don't have to re-explain because of it. Like because you've seen, you know, you don't have to ask who Amanda Waller is or why they're doing this program Task Force X. Like it's there. And without that context from the previous movie, maybe you wouldn't be as forgiving with like the lack of exposition at the, you know, the front half of that movie. I don't know because I don't, you know, I've seen it, but
I don't know if Hannah saw the first one. We watched it together. The Suicide Squad, like the new one. And I think she still pretty much understood kind of like what was going on. Cause like you can kind of get it from the first like 15 minutes.
Yeah, they
know?
do a good job of following Savant and watching him, like getting him set up, and kind of they do a hint of exposition, but it's a really cool scene watching him do it, and that cute cameo with the creator of the Suicide Squad being the one that puts the bomb in his neck and all that stuff.
yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong, you do not need to watch the first one to watch this or enjoy it. I wonder if me having that context, like I can't not have that context. So I don't know how it feels to go in without it. I was just curious if maybe that was, but you said Hannah liked it, right?
Yeah, she liked it. And like I said, I think the movie is like, you don't have to go watch the first, like the other Suicide Squad to understand how the plot moves in this one, which is to this film's benefit.
Yeah, that's true. Joey, I actually had a question for you because I think you've seen this movie, and I don't think Chris and I have, but James Gunn made a movie a while ago called Super with Rainn Wilson.
Oh, I didn't know it was James Gunn.
Yeah, and I was wondering how that compared to this, because that felt very, like, at least from what I've, seeing other reviews for the Suicide Squad, people were like, oh, this feels very similar to like old James Gunn, which can be R-rated and can have these zany, crazy elements that he wasn't allowed to do in the MCU. So I'm wondering if you thought the Suicide Squad felt similar to Super, or if it was like two totally different things, or like
It's
how that
certainly
worked.
been a long time since I've seen Super, but I do remember Super was super violent and kind of followed that same vein of like they could potentially kill off a character and really catch you by surprise with it type thing. So I guess I could definitely say, yeah, that there's definitely elements of it that I could see. And actually, again, I had no idea that was James Gunn. That's Rainn Wilson and Ellen, now Elliot Page, right? I think are the two.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's that, and then before that, he made a movie called Slither, which is like again like a body horror film.
I've actually seen Slither.
Oh, have you really?
I think I've
now
seen
we got two different perspectives.
I think I've seen Super as well, but it's been a while. It's also been a long time since I've seen Slither. That came out a long time ago.
But people were talking about how elements of that movie bled over into Suicide Squad, like all the crazy body horror stuff, like with Polka Dot Man or the Starfish Lab experiments. But yeah, people were like, it's nice to see him, be able to express his directorial style fully, which I completely agree with. And I hope that he continues to make movies in the DCEU, maybe a Suicide Squad 2 or I guess 3.
Yeah, I'd be curious to see because now he's going back to MCU to do Guardians 3 and the Christmas special, I think.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure he said he's already written the script for Peacemaker show.
I think they shot Peacemaker already.
Oh, did he?
Yeah, I think so, because he said he wrote it in early quarantine because he just had nothing to do, so he wrote that show, and then I'm pretty sure they just wrapped, but I could be wrong.
Fair. Yeah, so I guess again, Guardians at 3 and the Christmas special are his next two things, and then I don't know what he does from there, but
you know what he does from there? A Weasel spinoff movie.
Let's hope so.
I love Weasel.
Weasel's probably one of my favorite characters.
I love that everyone was speaking for him, but you got reaction shots of what he was thinking. So like they were like, yeah, no, he's totally agreed to do this. And you look at his face and he's like, fucking help me.
Yeah.
He looked a little cracked out, like
yeah. I think he was just shitting himself, and then he immediately dies.
Yeah. I love that with James Gunn, he keeps bringing his brother Sean into the movies, but gives him like the shittiest roles, and I just love that. Like because he was also Calendar Man as a cute cameo in this, and he's also in Guardians of the Galaxy as one of the Marauders. But yeah,
God, I would have loved to have seen James Gunn's version of Calendar Man, like his full version of Calendar Man. Maybe Suicide Squad sequel, but yeah, I mean, like maybe he just throws calendars at people or some stupid shit. Like,
yeah, I just can't believe that. Like, I think I told you, like, I sent you that picture where it just says like January, February, March, April, May, just tattooed around his head. I was like, this is ridiculous.
Yeah. Oh man. I'm thinking I kind of forgot about Weasel. He's in so little of the movie, but he is like just
he's in there so little, but he plays such a big part.
Right.
He really does. And he's not dead. At the end
yeah, he gets up. Who knows what he's doing now?
He just runs to the jungle and that's it. I do wish that was the last end credit scene. Like if it was just
Mhm.
that, I would have thought that was hilarious.
I was to say, what if they make him like that'll be the Stan Lee cameo of the DCU. You just see Weasel just in the background somewhere
Just
from
he's
now
always
on.
he's always like waddling somewhere.
Yeah.
In Aquaman 2, he's learning how to swim in one
Yeah, you
scene.
see him you'll see him quote unquote drowning or whatever. You'll see like Aquaman see him in the background.
Oh
Jason
man.
Momoa, like, I don't have time to deal with that.
Another scene I want to talk. We kind of, glossed over the Harley Quinn thing, but there's two scenes I want to talk about with her. One was with the Prince of Coro Maltese, or I don't know. He was like some higher power royalty guy, but their scene was great. I thought it was great development for her to immediately notice the red flags and then just shoot him in the neck.
Yeah.
I just kill people whenever I see a red flag. I was
Yeah.
like, you're fucking bad shit.
Yeah.
Don't stick your dick in crazy, I think was the lesson there.
I'll stick your dick in crazy. And then
or after just kill him. That's the Harley Quinn special.
oh yeah. Well, it showed an arc for her. I mean, like in these past two movies, she had like either fallen or sort of been under the thumb of dudes who were very controlling, like Joker in the first Suicide Squad, and then Black Mask in Birds of Prey. So it was nice to see her be like, no, I'm not doing this shit again, like, and just immediately kill him. Again, this is why I think that character worked for me in this movie, because Harley Quinn has never been a character I've really understood the appeal of, because most of her stuff in the comics is like just a prime example of domestic abuse. Like she's not a powerful character. So it's nice to see her in this new take where they've modernized her a lot. And they've made her, I don't want to say like, a strong, independent, whatever, but like they've done a good job of bringing her into the modern era of what she could be, her potential, I guess.
And they didn't just cop out. Oh, I'm sorry.
There you go.
I was gonna say they didn't just cop out with it and be like, now she's this song. It's like they're using her like previous like situations that she's been in that weren't good, and that's how like she's become stronger because of it. It wasn't just like suddenly like I'm strong woman now,
Yeah, they didn't Captain Marvel it. They like actually showed growth, which
Yeah.
was nice.
Yeah, I was gonna say like I think that's part of her appeal is that she goes from that the domestically abusive relationship to being stronger, because like a lot of times they kind of hint that she's smarter and more powerful than Joker throughout a lot of time, but then she's like kind of under his thumb. So almost every arc involving her involves her getting out of his thumb and going to be a better character. So it was cool seeing that arc played out in the live action.
It was, yeah, but that is still kind of a recent thing in the comics, even in like the Injustice comic when Joker dies and then she realizes how shitty he was and all that. Like that was kind of new, because before that she was just another Joker goon. Like she didn't really have a lot of character development or whatever. That I'm talking about like when she was first created.
Yeah, I mean when she was first created, I don't think they expected her to get as big as she was, because she was just in the animated series.
Yeah. They actually, I think you and I talked about this, but I was like, I wonder if they modeled her off of Pris from Blade Runner, because they're basically the same character. Remember in the first movie, like the Roy Batty's like side robot character? I think I might just be talking to myself right now, but
That's the girl with like the short blonde hair, right?
She looks exactly so. Okay, there, whatever, Jackie's girlfriend. I remember this from Cyberpunk, like at the beginning, and she has the crazy hair and like the dark makeup or whatever.
Mhm.
That's modeled after Pris, and I was wondering if like, because Harley Quinn and that character are very similar. And I was like, oh, maybe they they took inspiration from Blade Runner. It doesn't matter, but yeah, I guess we can just give general scores. I think we said this before. Mine is like 9.5, maybe a little less, like a 9.2 or 9.3, but some of the humor didn't always work for me, but that was really my only complaint. Everything else about this movie I absolutely fucking loved.
Yeah, I think a 9 is what I gave it. If the John Cena Peacemaker end credit scene wasn't there, it'd probably be a 9.5. And I don't know. It was a very solid movie.
Yeah, I'm probably at a 9 as well myself. just thoroughly enjoyed a lot of the parts of it. It feels weird because it almost feels like I should give it a 10 because like I generally there's a lot of stuff I couldn't really nitpick, but I can't tell what was missing, but something feels like it was missing, but I don't know what it is. If that makes any sense.
That's
But
kind of how I like just reviewed it. I was like, it's a 9.5, but I don't know how to make it a 10.
yeah, exactly. It's
Yeah.
like I'm not sure what would push it to that edge, but I think it'll, barring any craziness, it'll probably end up being my movie of the year. So.
I think it's mine. I think I saw Tenet like really early on, but that was last year. But so I think this is like out of the movies that came out this year, I think this is my number one spot.
Yeah, no, for me, it's like Bo Burnham's Inside and this are, obviously two very different reasons, but I love both of those movies. And like right now, those are pretty much share my number one spot. But I don't really know what else is coming out this year that I'm like really excited for besides Dune.
I'd say Dune and what?
Oh, and Spider-Man.
Spider-Man comes out on Christmas, I think.
Yeah.
I think I'm pretty excited for Free Guy. I wish I would have saw that this weekend. I just didn't have time. I don't think that'll be like my movie.
Yeah, I'm not expecting that to be like the movie of the year. I'm just expecting it to be a good fun movie. But
Free Guy has gotten surprisingly good reviews for what I was expecting. Like I thought it was going to be like 50, 60% Rotten Tomatoes, whatever.
Everyone loves Ryan Reynolds.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, he's a likable guy, but yeah, apparently the movie's actually pretty clever. Which to me, it looked like live action emoji movie in terms of like not really understanding what makes something popular with younger people or whatever. Like, oh, you kids play fucking Fortnite, or like it looked like that level of cheese. And some of those initial trailers were not good, but I'll still probably see it. Maybe we'll review it next week if we all get around to it. But
I'm just looking at through some of the movies from this year, and I don't think any of these are going to be high on my expectation list.
I'll say Dune. I'm expecting Dune to be my movie of the year, but we'll see. The other Dune movies are not great, so we'll see.
It's the big D.
Finally,
Denis Villeneuve.
Yeah, I trust him to make a good movie after Blade Runner. So we shall see.
He's really had, nothing but hits. I mean, maybe not commercial hits, but like Arrival is really good. I like that movie a lot. Blade Runner's 2049 is obviously fucking amazing. I'd expect nothing less from this. I know Roger Deakins isn't doing the cinematography for this movie, which is kind of a bummer because his shit is legendary. He did 1917 as well, which is also a beautiful movie. Do you guys ever see that one?
I didn't.
Which movie? I'm sorry.
1917.
I saw like bits and pieces.
Okay. I would, for anyone out there, I would also very much recommend that movie. It's a old war movie that's shot like it's one take. So the whole 2-hour movie looks like it's one shot, and it's amazing.
I think I've seen more YouTube videos on that movie than I have like actual parts of that movie.
So it's like Birdman.
Yeah, it's like Birdman if it didn't suck. The ending of Birdman is terrible. Yeah. I think it ends. Oh my god! Can I rant about this for a second?
Can I turn my? It's on my list. I haven't seen Birdman before.
Oh, all right, never mind. Then I won't say it. There's a moment in the movie where it should have ended, and then it goes on for like 10 more minutes. And there's a lot of that movie's just really fucking overly pretentious.
It was definitely Oscar bait. Like they wanted that to win an Oscar, and then it did.
The whole soundtrack is like just drums. I'm like, come the fuck on. Like, whatever. Joey, do you want to talk about? Well, Chris, how much time do we have left?
Like 10 minutes. I was gonna say real quick. Another movie I was excited for this year was Death on the Nile, but they moved that to next year.
What is that?
I think it's based off of Krista. I can't fucking talk. It's like a Knives Out kind of like murder mystery thing, and it's got Gal Gadot in it. I like that kind of stuff. But like I said, they postponed it, so
You know what movie we forgot about that's going to be the actual #1 tier 0 is Venom 2 Let There Be Carnage.
Is that this year?
That's
That's
in
this year.
October.
Oh no.
It just got pushed
Okay.
back again, but
They just-
that's
yeah.
the actual movie of the year.
They moved it back to make it even more perfect.
Perfect.
There you go. They got to polish it up a little bit
Yeah.
more.
Oh, it's gonna be fucking terrible.
Like,
Joey, real
polishing a
quick.
turd.
Yeah, like a turd in the wind.
Turd in the
We are gonna talk about Hades, I think, a little bit because you and I were discussing this in the group chat along with Joey Burt last night, and we have kind of different feelings about this game. And I thought it'd be fun to share that. But real quick, just a recap for anybody who hasn't played the game. Hades is a roguelike game, meaning that every time you die, the whole map resets, and you basically are the son of Hades, and you're trying to escape hell and get to Mount Olympus. And your dad is sort of like middle management office worker, and he's just trying to keep you there. And you get different weapons, and every time you die, you get to slowly upgrade your character. You get better and better with each run. Hopefully, I didn't because I'm bad. but yeah, it's the overall game. I think you and I agree on this, is that the visuals are amazing. The combat is super fun. The story is actually surprisingly like nuanced for a roguelike. Usually roguelikes don't have any stories.
Right.
And I think the only thing you and I disagree on is the mechanic of you having to run through the entire game all at once without there being any sort of, I don't want to say like a checkpoint system, but any real sense of progression other than when you die, you get to upgrade little pieces of you. And I think that just comes down to personal preference. Like you like that and I don't, but
Right.
what about that entices you, I guess?
I think that like there's enough progression in there to make it so like every time I've gone, I think I've gone through about maybe 15 times at this point. I just started playing it like a couple days ago, but I think I've had 15 deaths, and I've made it to the end boss twice now. But every single time I made it farther than the last, so I could actually feel progression each time. Like I would go into to fight the same boss again. I was like, I already know how to beat you. Let's do this. And I really love the mechanic of like every time you go through it, not only does the dungeon change, but your skills change. So like maybe you'll start with Athena and you can play a more defensive character. Maybe you'll start with Dionysus and you can do this whole damage over time. Maybe you'll start with Hermes and you can go really fast. I really love the way that every time I've played it, I've played a different character almost, it feels like. So it's almost like doing a whole new game from the start each time, but those little bit of bonuses from the mirror. There's also you unlock the ability to do house renovations, so you can spend treasure to get new rooms to pop up in the RNG, or you can get new things to pop up in the RNG. And I think that's really cool as well. And I guess the last little bit would be I love that there's a lot of characters in there, as many as there are Greek gods and Greek characters and stuff like that. I think it's not Roman, right? It is Greek.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah,
I get those two confused a lot.
it's fine. Everyone does. It's fine.
Yeah. But every time you talk to them, they have like a different tidbit of information. They did a really good job of making it to where like every time you die, Hypnos like has some sort of joke about how you died, like, oh, maybe don't stand in the lava next time, dumbass, or something like that. Like he's I think just altogether I've had a genuinely good time playing it, and I think as it stands right now, it's probably the most my game of the year right now. I think
this game is, everything you said is true. I think it's incredibly well polished in terms of like the amount of voice lines that they had to record for, because there's varying degrees of skill going into this. Some people are going to die 5 times, some people are going to die 500 times,
right.
And they had to record lines for every single death, different lines of dialogue. And I think that's really impressive. The one thing that you were saying that you liked that I don't like, and I think this is probably the biggest difference between us on this, is how you get different abilities each time, because I don't like the amount of RNG associated with how far you can get, meaning that it's not really based on your skill level. It's just sort of, hey, if you happen to get this god's power, then you'll go further. And I know that there's ways of like, oh, you give this person a nectar, there's a better chance, blah, blah, blah. But there's no real like concrete way of getting what you want to get better. And then if you die, even on a good run, and you start over and you just happen to get like shit power-ups, and you're like, well, this is a fucking waste. Like, I'll just get maybe to the first boss. I know I'm going to die, and then I got to do the whole thing again. And that amount of repetition, I think, just gets old after a while, despite all the different weapons you can have.
Yeah, I'll say that I still I like the part because I think no matter which gods or which power ups you end up getting, all of them seem viable. Like whether you're using one to give weakness powers, one to give like the blade rifts, attack faster, dash faster. I think that no matter what you do, it's playable so far. Maybe it's just that I don't want to like sound like a sweaty pro, but maybe it's just my skill level towards it. But every time I've played, I play towards the powers that I get. So if I get one power up that says, "Hey, your special attack is super powerful," that whole time I'll go through using a special in most fights. If I get something that's like, "Hey, your cast is really good," I'll just start casting through the fight, and still make it as farther than I've ever made it. So again, for me, I like that, but I could definitely see where you get frustrated. It was funny because I was actually I take this with a grain of salt because I've never played them, but it kind of gave me like almost like Metroid vibes, in a sense, to where it felt like, getting the power ups and a little bit of like the backtracking and stuff like that, which is my basic understanding of Metroid games. And so it was like doing that, but with upgraded graphics, and I'm also a bit of a sucker for the Greek gods and stuff like that. I even took a class on it in college, so seeing all those characters, like I still remember like I would see a little logo when I first started. I try to guess which god it is, and that was a lot of fun.
Yeah, the game, yeah, and I think I would actually, with that comparison, I would love to see, maybe not like you died, the whole thing starts over, but I would like to see a rogue like Metroid, where every time you play it, the power-ups are in different spots, and you kind of just have to find, and like maybe the bosses are moved around, or there's different bosses. That would actually be really fun. Like every time you go through a door, it's different. I know there's some modders that have kind of done stuff like that with Zero Mission in the past, but I think you're right. I mean, the overall idea, besides the RNG nature of it, and besides the roguelike nature of it, it is kind of similar to Metroid. I mean, you start out kind of weak, you go through the levels, you slowly build up your character, you find new abilities which allow you to explore even more areas, which lead to more upgrades, and then you fight all the bosses. So yeah, I mean, I guess in that sense it is pretty similar to that. I can't get over the RNG nature of how it affects your game, because I think there are some skills in Hades which are just clearly better than the others, and sometimes you just don't get them. Like I remember you and I were talking one run, I had the double strike with the special move, I got something else that built on that, and then I got something else that built on that one, and I was essentially unstoppable until I got to a certain point where like I just couldn't go any further because I had lost all my health. I died, I lost all that stuff, and it's just like the most crushing feeling of like, well, now I got to go through this whole fucking first stage again, but with worse stuff. And it's just, and I know that's the point of the game, is to make you feel like you're defeated, like you never will escape. And I get that. It doesn't necessarily make for a fun gameplay time.
I have a
I really
question.
like the fact that you got like it makes you feel kind of like how the character does, which I think is cool, of this like dread, because no one's supposed to escape the underworld, and they do a really good job of making it feel like, oh my god, I'm never going to be able to escape the underworld, which I can imagine is how Zagreus feels. But he still got that will to keep going, as much as I had the will to keep playing, but you don't have Zagreus's heart.
Clearly I don't. I don't have the fucking patience either. But Chris, what was your question?
So I haven't played the game. I watched Connor, you played a little bit. Is the reward, I think I saw you die like once, maybe, I don't know. Is the reward, quote unquote, like when you die, however far you got through the game, you get rewarded a little bit for it. Is that what you're saying?
So every time you enter a new room, it'll show you what power you will get, or like what minor upgrade you'll get from beating that room. So it'll
But
be
for
like,
that run only.
so some of the things are for that run only. Some of them you get to take back with you when you die. Like there are these purple gems you get to take back with you. There are these keys, and then there's this other material that helps you renovate the house, the House of Hades. Everything else you lose. So like when you go through a room with purple coins, you beat everything in that room, you get the purple coins, and then you get to choose what room you go into next. So one of the rooms might be a key, and then one of them might be a temporary power up for this run, like this specific run. And then you have to beat that room, and then you get that. And then you just keep going through until literally the end of the game. Like the game is supposed to be done in one run. Now you can power up your character to get like an extra life when you die, or like make them a little bit stronger. But for me, at least, again, this is all personal, but it doesn't feel like there's enough progression, or like enough, I don't know, personal accomplishment, whatever you want to call it, to warrant going back in immediately and having like 10 extra gems to spend on shit and then just doing the run all over.
Do you wish there was more reward when you died? Like, say you got like, I don't know, if you beat the first boss, you got a little extra health or something like that each time. And that way it gave you more of an edge. Even if you keep going in there and dying, as long as you persist, you will get to the point where just through playing the game, it doesn't matter what upgrades you got in that specific run, your character will be at a point where with a decent amount of skill, you will be able to complete the run.
Yeah, I think you should be able, after you beat that first area, you should, whatever power you get from that boss should allow you to essentially blow through that first area again. If they're going to make you go through the entire game again, like you should be able to kill that boss in a couple hits. Then when you go to the next level, it scales in difficulty and you're like, all right, now I got to do this whole thing. Then when you beat that, it'll scale to whatever that is, and then you can take those first two levels out. And this game doesn't really do that. You do get something from beating the first boss, but it's not enough of an upgrade to really change the gameplay at all.
I think that's what I think I meant to say is the word scale. So like things like the first boss, you're done, you beat them, whatever upgrade that gives you, or like even if you say I made it through 15 rooms, 2 of which were boss, you get some kind of permanent stat buff, and then that makes it a little bit easier, so you blow through those 15 rooms again. Like not like that, but like it's easier, right? Like say you more damage or higher crit percentage or whatever, like that would make it scale better. But it sounds like this game doesn't do that.
It doesn't do it as much. There is some of that.
It does do that.
Yeah.
So the mirror upgrades do give you. There's one called Death Defiance, which is basically the extra life. There's one that makes it so every time you go into a room, you heal 3 life, so you can maybe keep your runs going a little bit longer. There's one that's like as long as your health is above 80%, you do X amount more damage when you first go in there. So as soon as you get to that boss battle, if you're doing 25% extra damage than you did the first time going through, you're probably going to cheese it, which is why for me, it's pretty easy to go through it now because I'm just cheesing the boss at this point. But it does scale to where the next couple of bosses get a lot harder, particularly the third one. I died like 3 times at the third boss.
I'll say this, eventually you will beat this game just by collecting enough stuff to power your character up. Like, because you have to go through a lot, but like if you play the game, you run through it enough times to get enough upgrade points to unlock everything, you should be able to beat it. My question is that fun? And for me, the answer is, as I was playing, more and more became no. So, but again, that's personal preference. Some people might like that grind of being like, you know what, I can't beat this boss, but if I just get fucking 30 gems, I'll be able to upgrade this one thing, which will help me. I just feel like that progression is too slow and the combat gets too repetitive for me to be like, wow, I'm having a blast doing this. Feels more like a, like an actual job.
Joey, I have a question because you said you've been to the end boss twice. What benefit, like you've said you started playing the game a couple days ago and you've already gotten to the end boss a couple times, you've almost beat the game. Like once you complete a run through, is there any benefit to like continuing to play? Like you just beat the game, you know?
The answer to that is I don't know yet because I haven't done it
Okay.
yet. I'm still like, using like little codex. I can see that I'm still missing. There's still people I haven't met, so I can imagine after I beat. And this person, okay, so I should specify this may or may I don't want to spoil who or what it is, because for somebody who might want to play it, speaking on that, even after you die, Hypnos calls them redacted. So it doesn't even say who they are, so that's why I want to try and keep that part of it spoiler free. But they may or may not be the final boss. It's just where I'm currently stuck at, and it seems like it would be. But I mean, they completely unlock a whole new map or something like that for all I know. But pinging the other Joey he might be able to give a little more insight onto that as to that. But I feel like there's a lot of replayability to it to see how quickly you can make it through. I haven't watched it because I didn't want to spoil the game for myself, but I saw IGN posted where somebody did a like 25-minute speed run. So from a fresh new file in 25 minutes, they beat the game.
One life.
What'd you say?
Oh, I was saying one life. Like it was their first run through. They ran through and beat the whole thing.
And that seems insane to me. I could not imagine that.
That's why I think there's got to be something like after the end game.
Yeah, and
scenario
there probably is. Maybe there are time trials, or maybe there's extra content. But I can definitely see there's a lot of replayability behind it to where you're like, all right, maybe I want to try and go through with a different weapon this time or something. I don't know.
Yeah, and I'll say this too: definitely check it out, because I may sound like I hate this game. I don't. This game has a lot of great stuff going for it, and I think it has a lot of things that people may like about it that feel very fresh and new. And it's on Game Pass, so if you have Game Pass, it's free. I'd highly recommend giving it a shot and seeing if it's your cup of tea. At least right now, it's not really mine, but everyone else in the group chat who plays it really seems to love it. So your mileage may vary, but definitely try it out.
For sure.
And on that note, I think we're probably good to call it.
Do we want to do recommendations?
Oh yeah, we can do recommendations. Do you guys have anything?
I kind of, yeah.
Okay, you want to go first while I think of one?
Right. I was like, oh.
So we talked a lot about Suicide Squad and how it's on HBO Max. I would just recommend HBO Max. I don't really go on there that much. I think I went on there for the Snyder Cut of Justice League and now Suicide Squad, and I didn't really look through it. But their catalog of movies and TVs is, just looking through it, one of the better of these streaming. I hate that we have to have so many streaming services, but I think HBO Max, in terms of what they offer, is very, I don't know, just like a lot of good stuff. There's like old movies in there. There's like all the DC stuff, obviously. There's like Friends, South Park, a lot of good TV shows. Like Disturbia was on there. I was like, I'm gonna watch that again. But
The Rihanna song, or
no, the Shia LaBeouf movie.
I've definitely heard of the Rihanna song.
You've never seen that movie?
No, I haven't.
Oh, I used to. I remember. I've seen it like twice. I watched it when it first came out, like a while ago. When I was
How old is it?
Probably like 10 years.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. It probably came out around the same time the Rihanna song came out.
Gotcha. Well, I can kind of tag on to the HBO Max thing, but I'm gonna do what you did, I think 2 weeks ago, Chris, and I'm gonna give my not recommendation. Like, please don't do this. I do not recommend Space Jam 2. It's really bad. It is a corporate hack job of a movie. It's not funny at all. It's not good. The only thing I can going forward is that some of the special effects are kind of cool, but like most of it is dog shit. Don't fucking watch it. Just watch the original. As Your Movie Sucks said, they don't go into space and there are no jams. So do not watch this movie.
Wow. Don't
I
no space and jams in my Space Jam.
No,
Hashtag not my
the
Space
song,
Jam.
they don't go into space and the songs fucking suck. So
we watched the Suicide Squad on the 14th of August, and Space Jam. There was like a thing. It was like you might catch these before they leave HBO Max. And it was like Space Jam 2, and it was leaving the 15th, and now it's the 16th. And darn, I missed it.
oh man, I love LeBron being bad at acting though. That might be one of my favorite things in the world. I also just think the movie hates itself. Like the whole thing is a giant ad for HBO Max. Like they go into all these different worlds of different HBO Max movies and TV shows. And there's a point at the beginning when LeBron James is in a meeting with Warner Brothers, like at Warner Brothers Studios, and they're pitching him the idea of, they're like, what if LeBron James, like talking to him in third person, like, what if LeBron James was in Batman? What if LeBron James was in the Matrix? With our AI, we can put your face in anything. And then LeBron James, to their face, goes, that's the dumbest fucking idea I've ever heard in my life. Like, who would watch this stupid idea of a movie? And then literally the next hour and a half of the movie is that he gets sucked into the Warner Brothers server, like the cyberspace server thing, and he goes into all of those movies. So like the movie clearly hates itself. Like nobody wanted to make this piece of shit. It's just so blatantly.
Where's the basketball aspect?
So okay, so
Don
LeBron's
Cheadle, right?
huh?
Is it Don Cheadle?
So Don Cheadle plays the AI algorithm in the server. The reason that there's basketball is because LeBron is like really shitty to his son in this movie, because his son's like, I don't want to play basketball. I want to go to E3 video game camp and make basketball video games. And LeBron's like, don't be a pussy or whatever. I don't remember the dialogue, but
Sounds right.
yeah, the kids movie, it sounds right. But he won't let him do it. So LeBron's son makes the video game kind of behind his back a little bit, but then ends up showing it to him. But Don Cheadle, there's a glitch in the game. So Don Cheadle's algorithm is like, hey, I can fix your game for you. And he sort of like makes the game his own. And then he forces LeBron James to play in it, or he's going to delete all the Looney Tunes. Oh, yeah, the Looney Tunes are in this too, which you don't think they would be, because it actually makes sense why they're in the first one. This one, they're just there. They just show up.
This sounds like a train wreck.
It's awful. And Lola Bunny isn't hot, so 0 out of 10.
They nerfed her.
They did. They nerfed her big time.
I guess for my recommendation, kind of going off of Suicide Squad a little bit, I want to recommend Doom Patrol. So Doom Patrol is much like the Suicide Squad is the D-list villains going and doing these ridiculous missions and things like that. Doom Patrol is the D-list heroes doing the most ridiculous fights. And it was the first thing that Brendan Fraser did after coming back to Hollywood after his long hiatus. The first 2 seasons are a lot of fun. I won't say it's the most riveting TV in the world by any means, but it is a lot of fun. It's the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen. I would recommend it for that aspect. And the 3rd season is coming out soon.
I saw one scene from that Chris McCain sent me, where he's going into the mouth of a giant, like a daddy long legs or something. No,
the mouse, right? It's
the mouse. Yeah, that's what it is. The mouse. And he's like, swallow me whole, daddy, or something like that. I was like, I gotta watch this show.
Please do. I need somebody to talk to it with, because I forgot anybody else has watched it yet.
Well, now that I have HBO Max again, because I'm gonna have it for the whole month, because I watched Suicide Squad that way, I'll probably end up watching that because it looks really good.
Yeah, it's bizarre, but it's got really good character development, really good really ridiculous premise. I can't say good premise, but a really ridiculous thing. And I can tell you there's a lot of times you're gonna be laughing like, what is going on, but I have to watch the next episode type thing.
Gotcha.
It's definitely, much like Suicide Squad, did a good job of not taking itself too seriously while also making a compelling story. This one kind of falls in that same vein. So I'd probably recommend it.
Nice. those are solid recommendations and not recommendations this week. But yeah, I think that about brings us to a close here. I want to thank everybody for watching, whether you watch us on YouTube or you listen to us on Spotify or whatever. We're just glad that you do. If you like this and you want to see more of it, you can always subscribe or fucking, what do they have now? The bell. Click the bell. I don't know.
ring the bell for notifications.
Yeah, that way you always know. And we're gonna have a lot more videos coming out soon because we're gonna do the couple highlights from the week prior in case you don't have time to watch the whole podcast. You'll also notice, hopefully, that we are in a new little thing. We're all going to be in TVs, and there's wood paneling behind us. It's very fancy.
Hey, we were in TVs before.
Oh, that's true. We were kind of in TVs before. Yeah. Now they have antennas because our production value is way up. So
we blew the whole budget on it.
All $0 of it. So yeah, thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you next week.